When common sense is looking bleak, it's David and Greg's Dumbass of the Week.
That is not the opening that I wanted. Hard to segue into something from that. My bad. Hang on a second.
Common sense isn't gone. It just needs a comeback. Common Sense Superheroes with David and Greg.
Please negate that other opening, although I'm sure we could come up with a few that would make it make sense. But
it just reminds me of what happened to that particular segment. We should be doing Dumbass of the Week every now and then.
We got to have it. It'll be coming up. We got to bring it back. That was a good one. What's up, and welcome to another episode of Common Sense Superheroes. I'm your host, David, and across from me is the bearded one, Mr. Gregory Miller. Greg, this is episode 44, and before I let you use it, because you're going to steal mine, I know, and it's not just Obama. I know that's what you want to do. I don't want you to steal mine because I know how you always go with these things. I'm going to start out with number 44, Thomaston's own, great town of Thomaston, Georgia, Trayvon Walker, number 44 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, formerly of the Georgia Bulldogs. Hometown boy does good. Trayvon Walker. Listen, Thomaston, it comes with a unique kind of like pride that comes with it, knowing you almost survived it more than you lived through it. And a lot of people will get popular and get from it and then move away and never come back, myself somewhat included. I'm not saying I'm popular or famous, but it's you get away and you kind of get into other things. Trayvon Walker, as the success he's had, still will hold football camps for the youth and does a lot for the youth in the little town of Thomaston, which is a podunk little town. He's in Jacksonville living a good life. He still comes back and does good things. From all indications, a fantastic young man and a hell of a football player. Greg, I'm sure you remember Trayvon in old Georgia and Athens.
I do. I remember, and truth be told, I remember being somewhat skeptical of Trayvon as a high school recruit because he kind of just he was kind of an in-betweener. Like obviously he was going to play on the D line somewhere, but he wasn't big enough to be a middle, like a tackle or interior defensive line. And I wasn't sure he was athletic enough to play on the edge. But when the opening kickoff of his freshman season, and I saw him on the kickoff team running down the field at about 275, I go, okay, well, if he's that kind of athlete, he can play edge. Like you said, phenomenal athlete, one of those just absolute physical freaks of nature. But from his time in Athens and what you've talked about, his roots there in Thomaston, seems to just be a good old boy, like hometown hero type guy. We live in a world where you tell kids, hey, don't let athletes be your role models, but maybe Trayvon is, at least at this point, kind of turning that tune around and setting a good example for the young youth of Thomaston, Georgia.
Very proud of having him from my hometown of OT Town. Greg, that's my number 44. There's quite a few options that you can go with, and which way are you going to swing? You got to go.
I don't know how one can say there's quite a few options.
Yes.
To me, there was only one. It's Hank Aaron.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, there's a few options you could throw out there, but realistically, just one, especially for the state of Georgia or baseball in general. Hank Aaron, Hammer and Hank.
And I think, and this may sound a little odd, but for as well known as Hank Aaron was for being the all-time home run leader and stuff like that, I'm gonna tell you right now, I think Hank Aaron is vastly underrated for the baseball player he was. Like the consistency, the longevity. That dude was the epitome of a five-tool player back in the day where there weren't a whole lot of those. Hit for average, hit for power, drove in runs, good on the bases, good defense. And again, I mean, through the racial and political lens of what he had to deal with approaching that record and things of that nature, just seems to be a stand-up dude, and a good role model for the city of Atlanta. We're proud to claim him, even if he did start up north in the other organization.
Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Braves. Listen, you got obviously not Babe Ruth. Barry Bonds is the actual home run leader, but a lot of people will consider Hank Aaron still the home run leader because of the issues with possible steroids. But listen, Barry, when he hit like 70 something and he'd hit 60, 50, Hank Aaron never hit really. I don't even know if he ever hit over 50. And if it wasn't very much. So under, you're talking about the consistency year in, year out, hitting probably 40 plus is pretty insane. The longevity that goes with that and hitting that for that kind of power back in those days. Kudos, my man. And like you said, just a upstanding guy and kind of hated the whole hype about home run. He just wanted to kind of get the home run championship over. He was by that point he was tired of it, but I was glad he got it. I'm glad he was one of the saving graces of Atlanta. And the cool thing about Fulton County Stadium, where it was, anyways, in that parking lot, they had the little wall set up still where he actually hit that home run on April 15th. What I want to say is tax day, maybe it's 14th, uh, somewhere around there. And Al Downings, is that the guy who hit it off of? For some reason, that name comes to mind.
I think Al Downings is either Hank Aaron's big home run or Pete Rose's big hit.
Something like that. Because
Yeah,
everybody's like, you don't want to be known for that. I'm like, well, otherwise his name wouldn't be known at all. So I would give up number 714 to him or 715 to him, like whatever. But Hank Aaron, like you said, upstanding guy. The stories about him and his wife, Tommy, the philanthropy that they've done and just the love that they had for each other. And like you said, I'm sure there was some racial issues. Somebody beat Hank Aaron. Sure there was all that, and he endured it and overcame it, but is really beloved. I don't know anybody that doesn't like Hank Aaron.
No, and you go back and even then it you know the way the chase was celebrated for him became, I think, more of the story than the actual record itself. And I
Yeah.
think we witnessed a lot of that with the big home run barrage between McGuire and Sosa, and then when Bonds was chasing it, where sometimes obviously it was a different element with Bonds. It was because of the performance enhancing drugs and all the suspicions around that. But back in Hank's day, it was like I said, it was the political or the racial thing, and it took away from just the purity of what he was able to do on a baseball field. And again, I think a lot of he gets recognition as a Hall of Famer and as one of the all time greats, but I still don't think it's what he deserves is for the level of player he was.
There was rumors I think it's true that he batted cross-handed, like where his bottom hand was on top instead of on bottom, or his left hand was on top instead of on bottom when he swung.
I feel like
And
I
I
have
guess
heard something about that.
I don't know. I'm sure he changed that because he would have broke his wrist, but apparently that was the case. Had a huge wrist. But speaking of sadly passing, Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away at the age of 71. Passed away Saturday night. Says he died from an aortic dissection, which I asked Brooke about it. And she said it was a pretty painful way to go, sadly, from cardiovascular disease. He passed away Saturday night at the age of 71. Greg, he has a little bit of a, I don't know, mixed emotions or mixed feelings about Lindsey Graham myself. How do you feel about it?
I mean, anybody who's listened to us on this show knows my political opinions on Senator Graham. Not a fan, and like I'm not gonna come on here and be dishonest and sing a different tune because the guy's passed away unexpectedly. It's a sad day. I mean, yeah, he was a leader in the Senate. He was a leader of our government, and in this political environment that we're also tuned into, he was a very recognizable, very very known figure. And again, for those who were close to him, for those who cared for him personally, it's a sad day, and I mourn for them, and I hope that God can bless them with some element of peace and some sort of tranquility in this loss and this time of mourning. Politically, I've shared my thoughts on here about what I think of Lindsey Graham, and politically, you got to move forward, and I just let's put somebody better in his place.
Well, a few of his highlights, career highlights. He served in the Senate since 2003, which, wow, we talked about longevity with Hank Aaron. That's pretty longevity of that, over 20 years in the Senate. This one shocked me. He was an Air Force JAG officer and later was a reserve colonel. A strong supporter of the military. He's known for his national security, foreign policy, support for Ukraine. That's part of the issue there. Close relationship with President Trump in recent years, despite once being a vocal critic, which that has me, because when all this happened, I like to flip around the news channels and see who's covering it, what they're covering, and all that. And it took a while before you saw CNN or ABC even covering it. They just had it in passing. But the one thing that struck me was the fact that CNN, especially, the main thing they focused on was the fact that he was once a critic, a big critic of President Trump, and now he's friends with him. They kept bringing that up, kept bringing up the fact that he was against Trump, against Trump, against Trump. I'm like, Okay, they were political somewhat opponents at one point where they were both running for office and they had a few issues. Now they're back close, but that's how politics works. If when Kamala Harris, Lord, hopefully it's a long time from now when she passes, are they going to come out and say was once a critic of Joe Biden? Because she also was a critic of Joe Biden and then turned into being his vice president. That's the main thing they seem to focus on was that. And I was like, there's a lot of other stuff you could say other than that.
Well, let me start by saying, and again, I don't want to use his I don't want to use his untimely passing as an opportunity to pile on the poor guy, but y- Lindsey Graham's longevity is first and foremost one of the paramount problems I have with him, and I think he is, to an extent, he is one of those you can point to and go, that's a microcosm of what's wrong with the system. Nobody should be in Congress and be doing what he's doing for a living that long. I mean, look, he's unmarried, no kids. I mean, the guy just nothing about him resonates with he's going to bat for somebody like me or you. And there's a lot you can falsify and you could come back on Lindsey Graham and denigrate him for. But you know, he he didn't hold a grudge. You mentioned they wanted to focus on he was against Trump and now he and Trump are tight. Look, you don't have the kind of political career Lindsey Graham had if you hold a grudge and you get mad and aren't willing to move on and take some people back that have pissed you off in the past. Now, like I said, I don't like Lindsey Graham as a senator. I didn't like Lindsey Graham as a senator, but he was good at playing the games. He was good at pulling the right levers and pushing the right buttons to stay in that seat that long, to have the kind of power he had. And so, yeah, you have to respect it. It's the whole, don't hate the player, hate the game thing. Lindsey Graham was a product of what is a flawed and broken system. And I think a lot of what he became in that system is exactly what we need to fix.
Greg, look, he just hasn't found the right girl yet, the right woman yet. A lot of rumors that I feel like are going to come out now, which if he was that, I got to say somebody's holding good secrets because I haven't heard anything about him as far as from firsthand knowledge of him being playing for the other team, so to speak, or other way around. I don't know of him of ever being with a woman. So maybe he was asexual. I
He's a
have
unit.
issues. He was a war hawk. I didn't like the fact that he was a war hawk. Now, I will say that when I saw that, I was shocked that he was so high up in the Air Force as a JAG officer and was later reserved. So I didn't see that coming. So I'll give him somewhat credit in the fact that at least he did serve. But I did not like the fact that he was a war hawk and big on the Ukraine war. I didn't realize that as much as I did about the Israel war. Like he's all about wanting to go to war right now with Iran. Huge war hawk. It was shocked because he was just in Ukraine Saturday night or Saturday and came back Saturday night. And that's when all this happened. So obviously the conspiracy theory is going to come about. Was he drugged? Was he poisoned by Russia? Was it the guy walking by in his underwear? Jeez Louise. Jeez. But yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I have my issues with. Okay, I'm doing a podcast, sir. Gee, kids, I'm telling you, summer can't get over fast enough. I was shocked that, you know, I was woke up shocked to hear the news that it was him instead of Mitch McConnell. I mean, my God, Mitch McConnell is on the door. He's knocking on the door.
Well, and we can go ahead and can this. My eulogy for McConnell will be about like the one for Lindsey Graham. I mean, look, it'll be a sad day just for what he is and the stature he possesses. But no, it's the same thing. Like it- the the people who are out there, and like I hate to speak ill of the dead, but Lindsey Graham just seems like the kind of guy like most of our people in government, where it was a self-serving. He was out to he wanted the spotlight, he wanted the money, he wanted all the power and stuff that came with it. And again, like this is a terrible thing to say in light of his passing. I said I'll pray for his family. I hope they can find some peace. But as far as what he meant to our political fight, I don't think we'll miss him at all.
Speaking of his family, though, you might ask yourself what happens in this situation when somebody dies right now. And what happens is his let's see here. What did they say happens? Oh, the South Carolina governor will appoint a temporary replacement. And I said, speak of the family. Trump has came out and asked that they would let his sister Darlene take over and hold the honorary seat of his office until January. I have a couple issues with that. One, wow, what are her qualifications? I mean, is this that tells me all I need to know about what this job. If we could just throw a sister in there, come in there, and without any expertise, maybe she has expertise. I don't know, but I love the sentiment behind it because apparently I didn't know this. His parents died very young. I think his dad was 69, and while he was in college, and he ended up adopting his sister, I believe, or taking care of her when she was like 13. He was only like 20. So he ended up having a great relationship with his sister. So kudos for that. But that doesn't that doesn't mean you need to take over his office as Senate seat.
No, I'm with you, and at the risk of exposing ourselves for being unknowledgeable on the subject, maybe she is very well qualified and has some political experience. But I'm with you. It's there's only 100 senators in Congress. It's a pretty important, powerful position, and we got midterms coming up. We got some stuff going on right now that this isn't the time to be handing out like a participation trophy or a feel good story to have somebody who has no business in there. Look, again, we got to move forward. It's sad for the family, and if his sister's qualified, then that's fine. But we need to flush that out. But no, I want the South Carolina governor to do his due diligence and put somebody who's willing to go to battle and fight with us. Because right now we need people who are on our side, aligned with our beliefs.
Apparently, he's going to hold a press conference today at 4 o'clock where he announces who's going to take over for the temporary replacement. But there will be a special election take place on August 12th, I believe it is, or yeah, August 11th, excuse me, to replace Gam on the November ballot because he's going in the ballot up against the Democratic uh, opponent in November. There's a lot of things going. Tim Scott tried to get Trey Gowdy to take over the temporary spot till then, and I used to like Trey Gowdy. He says a lot of things I like, but boy, weird looking. If I'm just being small minded, boy, he's an odd looking bird. I don't know what he's doing with his hair, but he needs to figure something else out because it ain't working. He looks like an alien.
A little bit, yeah, I can see that.
It's odd. Nancy Mace's name is being thrown in there. She ended up losing it as her chance to be governor as a primary candidate for governor in June. So her name's out there as possible being a replacement candidate for him. They're actually asking the Governor McMaster. Trump is floating his name as who he wants to be the replacement candidate. He wanted his sister to be the replacement honorary for right now, but he wanted Henry McMaster, the governor over there, to be the candidate in August or in November. But I don't know. I like Mace. I like Nancy Mace. I enjoy watching her. She's a fun follow on X. I'll give her that.
Yeah, she's a little bit of a drama queen. She likes to spotlight a little too much for my
Oh,
liking
little.
for that role. But again, at this day and age, I don't know of any of our more engaged political leaders that aren't seeking the spotlight. That's just kind of become a prerequisite for the positions these days.
I really just hope whomever they get that they can win because it could very well impact the Republicans when it comes as far as in the Senate. And speaking of Nancy Mace in the spotlight, another one who liked the spotlight, Christy Nome, she has ended up, it's in the news lately because she is getting divorced from her husband, who shockingly he likes big boobs. Okay, give the man a break. But when you start wearing them yourself, and that's concerning. And the fact that she's ended up banging Corey Lewandowski, also a problem. But they're getting a divorce, so that's kind of sad. So whether you agree with Lindsey Graham or not, he was definitely one of the most recognizable faces in politics in the last 20 years. And like you said, consistently around, whether we wanted it or not. So he, I don't want to go as far as say he will be missed, but sad to see somebody pass away that has dedicated their life to that. I'm not
Well,
going to badmouth them.
no, and I think that's trying to stay on the high road, but still being true to the character and still being true to what this show is all about. I mean, ultimately, we're going to speak our opinions, we're going to tell the truth, and that usually revolves around some sort of common sense approach to life. Look, unfortunately, he cast some votes that I disagreed with vehemently, and in that case, I don't mean it in a harsh or rude or condescending way, but I don't think we're going to miss him. I think that South Carolina is a pretty strong red state. I think we're going to get somebody in there that will fill those shoes, and then it really becomes about who's going to be replacing him for the midterm. And with all those names, I mean, we'll find somebody. We got to get somebody in there, but I think it's an opportunity to kind of take a step in the right direction. And I hate to say that. I hate to make a positive out of what's a death in Congress or in the Senate, but that's just how I feel about it.
I don't want to lie and give us whole little like sad, poor old Lindsey, blah blah blah. And then you pull up video of me saying, critiquing him, which we did not
Well,
long ago. So
well,
I don't want to
and
be
you and I both
hypocritical
know
when I
for a
say that.
fact. You and I both know for a fact we'll see a lot of that out there in the next day or
Oh, yeah.
two of people eulogizing him and talking so glowingly about how important he was and how amazing he was. And some of those very same people have said the kind of stuff we've said. And I
Yeah.
refuse to be that kind of hypocrite, or at least not put it on tape.
I'm not going to do like Trump and say glad he's dead. I'm not glad he's dead by
No.
no means, but
Well, and
but
there again, I mean, this is a perfect example of like this is how you handle something like that. When you've disagreed with somebody, you can still be respectful.
yeah, disagreeing with somebody. I disagree a lot with Conor McGregor. Let's talk about Conor McGregor. You are notoriously not a huge fan of UFC, but did you stay up Saturday night to watch UFC 329?
I didn't stay up, and apparently I wouldn't have had to stay up too terribly late because it didn't last very long.
Well,
Uh,
that fight itself did not. So
no, Conor McGregor, and you and I've talked about it, like the ultimate showman, man. The dude knows how to draw attention, knows how to put on a show. The debate about whether he was injured or not, the gambling aspect. I mean, there's just so much unknown. But at the end, this is not to the degree of Tyson coming back and fighting Jake Paul, but the dude hadn't been in the ring in like half a decade. Look, as someone who's aging, you and I both know, brother, you take 5 years off from something. I don't care how much you train, it's just not the same. But to come out here and essentially, I mean, the video of him blowing out his knee on what was just a rather silly looking way to start the fight anyway, in that case.
dumb,
I
dumb.
mean, I don't know, man. It definitely it brings into question all the hypotheticals of did he know? Is the fix in? Is it somehow gambling related? But ultimately, to me, it becomes the latest in what we deal with all the time of something built up with so much damn hype and then just falls flat on its face. Nothing ever lives up to the hype anymore.
Yeah. Well, what happened is McGregor's UFC comeback after 5 years being away lasted just 69 seconds. And as Greg said, he foolishly started with a weird looking, odd roundhouse kick. Looked as if it seems like his ACL shot out. I know there's no actual diagnosis as of yet, but the big debate is whether or not he was hurt prior. And obviously, hindsight is 2020, but there's a lot of stuff that makes it very fishy, Gregory, very fishy. I try to not get on the conspiracy theory bandwagon too much. However, it's hard not to get on with this one. I don't want to fall down that trap of he was hurt and he knew it. But boy, looking back at some of the footage, first off, when he was back in the back warming up, you could see him kind of doing that same stupid little kick that he started with. And there was one point where he kind of irked and had just a weird kind of look in his eyes where you're like, okay, that didn't that you just see that something wasn't right. It didn't look right. And he wasn't that same old Conor McGregor cocky like cottony. Cottony is the word I want to say, but I don't know if that's it. But he was just bombastic most of the time, hyped up, pumped. This one you could tell there was a look in his eyes of like, uh-oh, I don't know about this. Like something ain't right. Didn't have the same confidence level. And you could say, like, well, he's been out of the game for 5 years, and I understand that, but that ain't Conor McGregor. You saw it in the press conference. He's still Conor McGregor. At that time he thought maybe I could take over, but that was one. Two was when he got to the ring and he started doing the taking off his shoes and whatnot, everything. There was one point where he stepped back to take off his shoe with the other shoe and kinda had that little kinda like buckle that you saw there as well. That w that also was weird. Just like I said, hindsight's 2020, maybe nothing, but to take 5 years off in those 2 situations where you're like, "Eh," and then to start with that kick. Greg, what are we doing?
Well, and you and I have, we hadn't talked gambling on this show in a while because I hadn't been gambling for the last few months. But when you throw that dynamic in
Ironically, I
this,
have.
yeah, no kidding. When you throw the gambling dynamic and the huge amounts of money that were wagered on this fight, and then you throw in, like you said, it's a sketchy situation. And again, from somebody who, you know, has gambled for the better part of my adult life, and I have lost some significant chunks of money on events where watching it, you just go, I can't believe I just saw what I saw. Like, I know I saw it. There's some things where, and then, we had the NBA scandal with Tim Donaghy, and you've had some of
Mm-hmm.
these fixing things in. It's been bad in tennis and soccer, like for years. It just makes you wonder, man, with the access to players, the access to information and social media and all this stuff. And it's hard not to, when you see something that even seems remotely fishy, it's hard not to go down that conspiracy rabbit hole and go, man, who's making millions off this shit that I didn't know about?
Well, supposedly his coach said that there was no prior injuries. Said there's never been an issue. That knee has never had issues. And McGregor he said he trained that kick repeatedly. But there was footage just a couple of days ago of him going into a pain clinic, Newsom pain clinic, I believe it's called New Point Pain Clinic, which allegedly has an orthopedic surgeon that works in there as well. Just a few days back, like say Thursday, Friday. So that makes me think perhaps they did know something was up, but I'll take it this far as in the fact that 2 years ago, I tore my calf muscle, um, just at work, just walking, tore my calf muscle. And then, tried to heal it, had the boot on and all that. And then the next year, I ended up tearing my Achilles in the opposite foot. And I just know without a shadow of a doubt, it's because when you hurt one foot, you end up favoring the other foot, and that might cause damage or he gets overstressed or overworked. So I think the fact that he had already broke his foot last time he fought Dustin Poirier, he ended up breaking his left foot, which apparently had a prior injury as well, in a horrible fashion. He just like his ankle, it was just god awful. That and he had pulled out previously from a broken toe in 303, but that's neither here nor there. That's not as big a deal as the other foot. But the fact that he had broke his other foot previously, the last time he fought, and then the one on the other foot is jacked up now, I can't help but think that that has something to do with it.
Well, and I'm here to tell you, Dave, that age is also a thing. And I'm
Mhm.
sorry, like I mean, I separated, dislocated my shoulder doing the same thing I've probably done 500 to 1,000 times in my life. So I mean that is part of it. And 5 years off, like there's that particular sport, especially, there is nothing that can simulate actually being in that sort of situation with the
Mhm.
adrenaline going, with the thought of I am locked in a cage with this guy who wants to harm me. Man, I don't know. Like I said, you want to take the high road. You want to think, hey, it's just a fluke thing. Nobody knew, but this becomes like everything else. We live in such a low trust society now that when something like that happens, everybody's first thought is to run down the conspiracy theories because nobody believes anything because, well, frankly, because everybody's lying to you about everything.
Well, injuries can happen when you get old. Trust me, I know that. And I'm sure you know that too, based on the fact your right shoulder is not moving hardly. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that when Conor filmed Roadhouse and in the seen him on his Lamborghini boat over the last couple of years, dude was jacked to the gills to the point where it's like, that is not just protein and creatine powder. That is a little extra help. He's got a little sauce in him. Okay, he's got a hot needle that is inserting in his body and getting all kind of goodness that's coming out of it. And one thing that does, and I actually reached out to a buddy of mine. I was told him I was going to bring it up. He's a strength and conditioning guy. I was like, I was going to bring up the fact that listen, steroids may help your muscles, but they don't do anything for your joints and your tendons. And I was like, does it weaken them or does it necessarily because your muscles and all that get so big that they're carrying a bigger load than they normally are? And he went on this long post and broke it down to me. And but basically, it doesn't necessarily deter your tendons and joints as much as it does just the fact that you're putting overloaded stress on them. Conor was clearly jacked. I have no idea how he even got down to 170 because he was juiced to the gills. I can't help but think that that had some undue stress on his joints as well. But age does happen as well.
It does, and I mean, as somebody who spent, the better part of 2 decades in the gym business, I became familiar with a lot of that stuff, and now with yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not that it necessarily, directly deteriorates the ligaments and tendons, but it does put a lot of stress on them. And what it essentially does is it makes you feel superhuman to where you just don't pay attention to things hurting, and you feel like you can do things, and you just push through because everything heals so quickly until it doesn't.
But this is from an expert opinion is what I got on it, if you wanna call it that, and he was like, "I really hadn't watched it yet," and he was giving me all the breakdown. Then he told me after watching this is before I even brought up the fact that people thought that he was injured before he even got in there. He said after watching it, he may have already had some micro tearing in the ligament and that the first kick took it out. Could also be an adrenaline surge that launched him higher than further than what he's used to with that first kick, and that backward torso lean created enough sheer tear at the knee to rupture the tendon. So even without bringing it up, he don't even watch UFC and he don't know any of the rumors. He said that there's apparently had to be some tears in it previously. And that's how I feel. I think something's going on because the betting sheets were just thrown all over the boards. Like I said, never bet hardly ever, but I've gotten into Kalshi. Is that what it's called? Predictive, what do you call it?
I've used them.
Predictable betting or whatever, prediction betting. And I ended up going with Max Holiday, and I was shocked that he was the favorite, even though Max Holloway's a bad man. I mean, he is one of the all-time greats. But I thought Conor coming back, he's so big. They had Max Holloway. There was a lot of money floating around. I was shocked to see it, but there was so much money going around, and this would be the second time Conor's had to pull out of a fight right before it happened. I think they had something to do with it and forced him to at least go out and give it a try.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. The only thing I'll say is I have a lot of respect for Dana White and how he has run that organization and made UFC into what it is.
Known gambler, though. Huge gambler.
Well, and that's my point. And knowing that Dana has been known to place a wager or two as well, man, he knows he loses all credibility if he's gotten any sort of like any match fixing going on, anything where they know something's not on the up and up and they're still letting people get money down. That I think Dana's better than that. I think again, I'm not saying the McGregor camp might not have had a little inkling that something was off. They might not have known. I just can't believe that the knowledge was widespread because I think Dana White would shut that shit down if he thought it wasn't going to be a legit fair fight from a gambling and gaming standpoint. I think he knows that could ruin his business because UFC and gambling are tied hand in hand very tightly. And if you start getting it to where all of a sudden people don't trust what they're seeing, man, that's a sketchy thing for a organization that makes a living off that.
It most certainly is. Apparently, Drake bet $1 million that Conor would win, and he ended up losing it, obviously. So that's what you get. I bet a couple bucks on Max Holloway to not win in the first round, which that got me. I ended up losing that one, but I did bet on him to win, and I bet on him to win by KO. And I put third round. I didn't think it would be first or second round, but because it actually started, it's a technical fight. Had it been called beforehand, they would have to issue refunds and whatnot. But because it actually started with the dumbest kick I've ever seen in my life, even without hindsight, starting after 5 years off to come out think you're going to catch Max Holloway with a George Masvidal type ending, which he did with Ben Askren, is silly. That's a high chance, high risk kick that even if it kicks, I don't think it's going to do the damage to take them out. And the downside is you do possibly risk you hurting your knee. Then I kind of go back. I'm like, if he knew his knee was hurt, why would he do that stupid kick? It makes no sense.
I mean, just playing devil's advocate, the only thing I would think is maybe that if he knew he had that knee injury, then maybe trying that sort of kick becomes the storyline to say that's when it happened.
Going deep in the conspiracy, I like it. You could say that's when it happened, or if he happened to hit it and knock him out, the fight will be over and he ain't got to go 5 rounds. Conor wasn't going 5 rounds. There's no chance he was making 5 rounds. He would have had to have knocked him out early. Max Holloway is notorious for having like the best cardio in the game and just overall toughness. So he wasn't going to out cardio Conor, especially after 5 years off. But
No, but
I
at
don't
the end
know.
of it, the bigger takeaway for me is just the disappointment of it all because it's just one more thing in the long list of things that we get built up and hyped up, and then it just completely falls flat on its face.
You got me hyped. I never stay up that late, Greg. Never. And I forced myself. I didn't even take my sleeping medicine until after the fact. I ended up drinking a Celsius about 5 o'clock to try to stay up to watch it. I wanted to see it. And overall, a pretty good card, pretty good fight card. I watched Didn't watch the Gable Stevenson too afterwards. Gable Stevenson, the Olympic wrestler, just total badass. Ended up not wrestling. Ended up trying to go in and go toe to toe with a guy, and almost got knocked out, but ended up getting the win. Didn't use his wrestling as much as I thought he would. Paddy Pimblett, who is
Pimblett.
Paddy Pimblett that was a great fight. Ended up catching homeboy in a choke like immediately. The two fights, thank goodness for somebody who wanted to go to bed, ended rather abruptly, rather quickly. That was a good one. They had the crowd hype. He's fun to watch. He's like a Conor in his heyday as far as excitement. King Green took on I can't forget his name, but it was a great fight, a good comeback fight. I'm back in UFC. It got me, Greg. I'm back. I think I'm gonna watch them from here on out.
Well, I want to focus more on the fact that you're now gambling, and
I am
when
now
we
gambling.
when we lead into our next topic, I gotta know who you got money on tonight.
We'll go into our next time. Before I go that, I started out betting. I bet on Brazil to win in the World Cup, which boy, that's why I don't gamble, because that who would have thought that. I bet on a few other little things. I think I bet if the temperature is going to reach a certain temperature in Atlanta as well. I won on that one, so I was proud of that. I actually watched some of the England and Norway soccer match. That's the only bit of soccer I watched. I watched the last, I don't know, 15 minutes of regular time, and then watched the extra time or whatever the hell they call it. Can't say I
David,
was over.
take it from somebody who knows now, and I think you'll be okay. I don't think you possess the same attributes I do, but gambling can be addictive and it can become a problem.
Well,
You're talking to somebody who now, like, and I admit this with a certain and earned amount of shame. During COVID, I told you the story, dude. I was betting like $300 a match on freaking Russian ping pong because I'm so addicted to gambling, and that was like the only thing going on because COVID had shut the whole world down.
Uh,
So I'm betting $200 and $300 on, and all I do is just follow scores on some app on my phone. I got no idea if they're even playing ping pong in Russia. But be careful, man. Once you start making a little bit of money and winning some bets, it can get pretty
Yeah.
darn addictive.
So far, it's like $1 bet, $2 bet. I keep it small to where it doesn't hurt. I put $10 in. And I said, once I get to where I'm zero, I'm going to take a break and all that. So I am down $4 now that I think about it. I only got 6 left. So I got to figure out some good bets to do, but I did watch a little bit of soccer, Greg. I can't say I may watch the final game, but hard for me to watch it. We'll get in that another day. I don't want to get off topic, but soccer's not for me, but I'm trying to enjoy it. But if I had to bet tonight, I would bet, for one thing, that the MLB listens to us, because not long ago we made some recommendations for the home run derby. They didn't do all of them, but they did do a few. So tonight, Greg, the home run derby is in Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Park at 8:00, streaming on Netflix for the first time. And also, but going back to the roots, it is no longer a timed event. It is a per swing. So the first round you get 20 swings. The second round you get 15 swings, and so on and so on. So it's now no longer the timed event where you can see how far the ball hits is what I want. They're doing swings, Greg. So they listen to us on that.
Yeah, hopefully the bikini clad outfielders will be
That's
coming
what I was just
shortly.
about to say. They
Um,
left that part out.
You know, David, I'm going to admit something, and this is just a sign of the time, sign of where we are, I guess, generationally and for our particular age. The home run derby 25 years ago was must-see appointment TV. I mean, I'm telling you, I knew where I was watching it, who I was watching it with, what was for, like, what we were having, food and drinks. Until you mentioned it in our brief little pre-show rundown, it didn't even dawn on me the home run derby was tonight. It completely has snuck up on me. I did not realize we were already to that point in the baseball season. I didn't know who was participating. I had to go to, when you said we were going to talk about the home run derby today, go, holy shit, that's today. So I've done a little bit of homework on it, but man, it's just crazy how something that, I mean, 20 years ago, like I said, this would have been an appointment based watch. I would have known about this weeks ago, would have been looking forward to it. Probably would have already been betting on who was going to win it, who was going to advance out of each round and all the things. And I didn't even know the home run derby was happening today till about an hour and a half ago.
I have to watch Netflix quite a bit with the kids, so it is advertised on there quite a bit. So I was aware of it. You can kind of say the same thing about the slam dunk contest. I used to love the slam dunk contest. Mac McClung brought it back briefly, but now I still can't find myself watching it. Now, given the choice of the two, I think I'm going to go home run derby. I'll watch that because the boys will watch a little bit of the home run derby. And I think now the fact that they took away the time thing where it's a speed deal, I'm even more inclined to watch it. In fact, I'm almost this close, and I think I'm going to betting on 2+ home runs over 500 feet. I think I'm going to put some money on it, Greg. I'm thinking they're going to get 2 over 500. And I think those 2 might be by some of the Phillies' hometown boys, especially one of them. That is one Kyle Schwarber. And I'll go down the list of who's in the home run derby. Who's not going to be in the home run derby is Cal Raleigh, the defending champion, and one Shohei Ohtani, which kind of hurts. But I'll give you the list of who's in it, and you give me who your favorite might be. Like I said, it is in Philadelphia, so you got the hometown crowd's going to be rocking, and they're going to be able to cheer for one Bryce Harper. TikTok makes me kind of like him, I will say. Some reason I like watching him make coffee. I can't explain it. Kyle Schwarber, boy, who would have thought he would come back like he is and just be the dominant guy that he is? Simple swing, fun to watch, but I hate him because he's on the Phillies. Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays, young guy, whole lot of power. Jacques Caglione, some weird names, also a good big young guy. We have Ben Rice for the Yankees. Jordan Walker for the Cardinals. We just saw him playing against the Braves. That is a mammoth young man. Unexpectedly super power hitter, Muneka Murakami for the White Sox. Wow. And I didn't see this coming in home run derby either as well. Wilson Contreras for the Boston Red Sox, who getting a lot of attention because apparently a hot hit. So with that list, Greg, no Pete Alonso's, no Cal Rallies, no Shohei's, not the superstar power, I think, but who is it that you are taking in this home run derby 2026?
I'd come at this from 2 different approaches. If I had to bet a significant amount of money on just one player, I think I'd put it on Kyle Schwarber. If you were talking, hey, I want you to bet, $200, $300, $500 on this, I'd probably go with Schwarber. If I was trying to make a, $25, $30, $40, $50 bet and have some fun with it, maybe a long shot, I'd go with the guy you can't pronounce. I'd go with Jack Caglianone. I watched him, and I hate the fact that he's a Cox, Gator, but I watched him at the University of Florida. That dude can hit a baseball, beautiful left-handed swing, big old 6'4", 235, like an athletic looking guy. I could see him kind of reminding us early of the Josh Hamilton debut in the home run derby we talked about a while back, where he could just get on a roll. If he gets in a rhythm and he's on his mark, Jack Caglianone can hit a lot of balls a long way.
Why do I want to say his dad played ball? Why does that name sound familiar? Did his dad play majors? I'm sure everybody. It seems like damn near everybody is this year. Nowadays, everybody's dad played pro ball. But I'm with you. I think Bryce Harper's going to want it too bad. I think he's going to want it kind of like when he did with the Nationals. He showed out and ended up winning the home run derby, I believe. I think he's going to want it a lot, like Chipper Jones. Back when Chipper Jones, you could tell he wanted it and didn't hit any. Same with Mike Piazza. I don't think he did anything either. But I think Bryce Harper's going to want it too bad. Kyle Schwarber is an easy pick to me. I think his swing's just so compact, so perfect. Hometown crowd. He's going to hit the bell. I think the bell is coming. I think there will be 2 500+ home runs to the point where I think I'm going to put a little money on it. I probably need to check the weather, though, see what the humidity's like in Philadelphia.
Check the wind conditions.
That too. But what would you put? Would you say over under 2 home runs at 500+? There were a few last year in Atlanta. Atlanta notoriously a launching pad.
Atlanta carries. It's still July. It ought to be warm. Unless the conditions are not favorable with these dudes, I would say over 2.
No. Jordan Walker.
But
Jordan
there
Walker
you get into
maybe
that,
hit one.
and you talk about that from a gambling standpoint. There you get into and again, if you're putting $5 or $10 on it, no big deal. But you put a significant amount of money on something like that, and then you start thinking about how are they measuring this crap? Do I really trust that he hit that ball 507 and not 493? Do we really know? Because I mean, look, I ain't the smartest guy in the world, and I know it's all math with how they calculate it because there's no way to really justify, like, you don't know where that ball was really going to land.
It's tough. It's tough. They got a lot of good stats that they throw up. That Google stats where they're like, he ran 28 miles an hour getting to a ball 70 feet away, like all this stuff that pops up instantly. You're like, wow, that is crazy. But then you type something into AI and you're like, well, it may be possible because will say some things. I did see a list of the top home runs hit in home run derby, like as far as power wise, but when they started keeping up stats wise, and mainly the top 4 or 5 were Sammy Sosa in Milwaukee that year, where he was just jagging bomb after bomb. Clearly
You
enhanced
know,
with that and a
it, go,
bat, I'm sure.
it goes way, way back, but I think probably one of the most impressive
I
home
know
run derby.
exactly what you're gonna. Oh, okay. I thought you
I
was
don't know if
gonna
you do.
say. I thought you were gonna say because this one for some reason stands out in my head as the first one that I was like, "Holy crap, that's over 500 foot." It was when Frank Thomas hit that one in Riverfront Stadium off Will Clark sign up there. Like it was upper deck, but like center field upper deck. That was the one I'm like, "Holy crap!" But I thought that's what you was gonna mention. But go ahead.
Well, I was. I was going 94 Frank Thomas in Pittsburgh. Like, because he was routinely hit on 500 feet. I
I
mean,
mean, it was like 520, and it looked like it was 620. Like that was just a tore up. That's funny that you were going to say that because that's the first when I think home run derby. I guess in our time frame era, that's the one home run that you're like, oh crap. That and Griffey hitting it off
in
the
Baltimore.
warehouse and right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the big ones. Watching Griffey back in the day, man, you just wish remember towards the end of Barry Bonds' career, you were like begging, you like, please get in the home run derby, please. He never would. I would love to have seen it.
Yeah, I said Griffey, if he could have stayed healthy, man, God, what that kid could have been. But I mean, you look at him and for all the stuff we talk about that seems to have any sort of negative connotation, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of those that's everything that's right with this world in this country. I mean, one of the best baseball players of all time, and now just blends in effortlessly as a photographer at major
I
sporting
know.
events, and people don't realize that's like one of the top 10 Hall of Fame baseball players ever. And now he's just a guy behind a camera that nobody seems to bother.
How about you can go to a certain sporting event and look over and see Randy Johnson and our Ken Griffey, 2 of the greatest players of their position of all time, taking pictures. Like, why? Shockingly, they became photographers. They love the sports photography business. I appreciate it. Griffey can kind of blend in a little bit. He's a little chubby. He's still, that face, that goatee. Randy Johnson ain't blending in nowhere when you're 6'10". We can kind of see who you are, big dog. But I think that's a cool thing that they both love photography. Uh, Pretty neat. The Ken Griffey Jr. speech at Jay Buhner's Seattle Hall of Fame induction was pretty wonderful, pretty remarkable. It tells you how close they were. But I don't know how
Yeah,
we got
like I
through
said,
that.
it in a world full of negativity and hate, Ken Griffey Jr. can kind of bring a smile to your face and remind you that there is still some element of good in this world.
And he is one of the names I think of when I think home run derby. I think Ken Griffey Jr. I think Frank Thomas, that one comes. Obviously, McGuire, Sosa, when they were going back and forth. Who cares if it was juicing? Who cares if he had doctored bats? It was just fun to watch. I'd like to see McGuire and Sosa at their best in Coors Field in a home run derby. That would be fun to watch.
Yeah, we talked about the Josh Hamilton one was very memorable
Yeah.
because he got so hot in that first round. It was crazy.
You know who I heard would probably dominate, but wouldn't be like big home runs or nothing. They said Ichiro used to be able to hit it out almost every single time, but right out, like literally scrape the back of the fence on the way down. So nobody wanted to see that, but they said he could hit just routinely over and
Yeah,
over.
but before Ichiro, the guy was Wade Boggs, and they said like Wade
Yeah.
Boggs wouldn't hit but 5 or 6 home runs a year. But they said if you tell him to in batting practice, he can literally just sit there and curve them around that right field foul pole. I go, and he won't hit any of them more than about 320 or 330. He goes, but he can hit 8 out of 10. Like he could just
Well,
because he just
especially
never
when he
misses
was
it.
especially when he was in Boston in Fenway. That's a short right field porch, and then went on to the Yankees, so probably could do it there as well. Underrated player. Wow, Wade Boggs just wasn't fancy. Just like I'm just gonna get on. I ain't gonna make it look pretty. I ain't gonna do anything fancy. I'm just gonna get on base. Kind of Tony Gwynnish, except slower if that's possible. And a hell of a drinker.
right.
Hell of a drinker.
Yeah. And man liked him some
But
cold beer for sure.
he did. He did. Well, that's it. We're going to keep it to 3 topics, even though it rambled a little bit. That's who we got for the home run derby. We both got Kyle Schwarber. A few outside picks otherwise than that, but I'm going Kyle Schwarber. Greg, another great episode, my friend. Hopefully we'll get back to some more consistency. This summer's killing me. It's been a rough 2 to 3 weeks now, and I pray things changing for you as well. The AC's acting up, all kind of stuff. We got to get back consistent. But who is being consistent is Greg on his podcast, Beliefs, Ballots, and Bulldogs. So go check that out. Listen to it. It's almost like a daily affirmation that you listen to. I love it. So, Greg?
Yeah, I've tried to get into a pretty good rhythm other than when I've been traveling and just not had access. This time of year, there hadn't been a whole lot of Bulldog stuff to talk about. Not a lot going on. Nobody wants to. Today, I actually even skipped the countdown because I didn't figure anybody wanted me to talk about Walt Claire Flynn Jr. as the number 54 on the offensive line.
What we can talk about Bulldogs is, how did Daniel Jackson drop? Why didn't the Braves pick Daniel Jackson? They had a chance, 2 different opportunities to get him. Ended up going to Colorado, which I believe that last big player for Georgia ended up going there.
Yeah, Charlie Condon, but he's now with Philadelphia.
Oh God, what is it with Philadelphia and Georgia players? Both sports. What the hell? But I was upset. I wish they'd have got on Daniel Jackson.
I think there's some hesitation for how Rhino's game translates to the next level from a power standpoint when you put a wooden bat in his hand. That's just, it is so hard to tell. But he's a freakish athlete, but Dan Jackson's not a real big guy, and for a power hitter, it's just hard to know if that's going to translate at the next level when you got major league pitching and you got wooden bats instead of those metal cannons they're using now.
And I knew when they were talking about it, and it was like best available. He wasn't on anybody's list. He was slotted to go about 28th, and I think he went right about there, maybe a little after. But I thought, why not get the hometown guy? I mean, what do we got to lose? Another catcher?
Atlanta professional teams don't like drafting people out of Athens.
I don't get it. It don't make sense to me. He just keeps walking by, interrupting it. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought about that. I meant to bring that up earlier.
No, it's no. I wish, like I said, I wish DJ would have got drafted by the Braves, but I don't know. Baseball is such a funny sport, man. Some of these guys that don't get drafted at all can turn out to be some of the greatest players in the world, and you just never know. But hopefully he'll end up maybe he'll get a shot in Atlanta down the road.
Well, we're rooting for a better second half of Atlanta, even though it was a great first half of the first half. It was a bad second half of the first half. So let's hope that the whole second half is a nice one. That's it, episode 44. Greg, as always, leave us with a good word, my friend.
We appreciate y'all listening. If for those of y'all tuning in, like, share, subscribe, do all the things, engage with us on social media. Y'all let us know what you want to talk about. We would love to make this even more interactive than it is. We'd love to have some of you guys on. If y'all want to come on here and chat with us, just let us know, give us a heads up, and we'll make it happen. So other than that, as always, when we get out of here, we'd like to tell you, get in your Bible, say your prayers, love one another, and tell the truth. God bless.
Peace. R.I.P. Lindsey.